Alaikum. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Wasim. Great to be here. Thank you, Asif, Excellencies, guests. It's always difficult going after Julian. He tells it like it is. But I'll have a go. My lovely team have given me some wonderful notes. But bear with me, I might go a bit off script. So first of all, I think for FCDO, one of the big things over the past year is just realizing the scale of the challenge here in Pakistan. I mean, you know the statistics. 8th most vulnerable country to climate change, a price tag of $348 billion the World Bank has estimated to bring Pakistan to a point of climate resilience and a low-carbon economy. That's by 2030. 22 million kids out of school before the floods happened. We think upwards of 25 million kids out of school now. Stunting rates of 40% in many parts of the country. I could go on. The statistics are there. And Julian's right, of course, some of this is just down to development levels in the country. It's not all down to climate change, but climate change is clearly a force multiplier of these challenges that we're seeing. And so for us, it's been a year of reflection, I would say. A year of a lot of work, but also a year of reflection. What more can we be doing, and how can we accelerate our own efforts and support others to accelerate their efforts too? And I think another realization with that has been that this isn't just about us development people. I mean, my title has development in it. But of course, it's so much more than that, isn't it? We have to be talking to our colleagues in the private sector, our colleagues who are helping to shape the capital markets here. We have to be reaching out across the political spectrum. We have to be working at the grassroots level as well. We have to be working with the establishment here in Pakistan. So we've been rethinking how we approach this challenge of climate change and how we can move from rhetoric to reality. In case you want to know a little bit about what we're doing, we've recently published the UK's refreshed development strategy for Pakistan. It's just a short document. You can find it on the web. But what I hope that will tell you is that climate change really is at the centre of our development and humanitarian efforts here. In fact, it's an issue that we discuss across all areas of our work in this country, whether that's how we look at Pakistan's relationship with its neighbours, or how we look at Pakistan's issues around security and justice and the interplay between those issues and climate change, human capital issues, the economy. That's a huge one, isn't it? So take a look at our strategy. It's newly out, and you will also see in there that we are really trying to double down and invest more in efforts on climate change. We are lucky to be having a bit of a budget uplift next year for our development efforts here. I can tell you the focus is on supporting climate resilience here. The second point that I wanted to talk about and is really a sort of call to action and perhaps another reflection on some of the lessons from the floods over the last year. And that is that in all our efforts, we need to be thinking about the most marginalised. Again, this is not rocket science. You all know this far better than me. Climate change affects the most marginalised in society, the poorest, people with disabilities, women and girls, the economically disadvantaged. I'm really delighted that the government of Pakistan has published its national adaptation plan just over the last week, isn't it? And that really does start to put Pakistan in a stronger position to tackle some of these issues, because of course mitigation is important here in Pakistan, but actually the sort of crux of the challenge, the way I think about it at least, is around adaptation and supporting communities, particularly very poor communities, to adapt to the new reality of climate change. The third point I wanted to talk about, and this links to some of the issues Julian mentioned, is the need to really get to the bottom of some of the structural challenges that we see here in Pakistan. The economy has been much on all of our minds over the last year, and Pakistan's ability to get ahead of some of these climate challenges is intricately linked to its ability to have a development budget, to manage its debt repayments, to think about taxation in reasonable but sensible ways. And so, for me, tackling some of these macroeconomic challenges is as important to the climate issue as any number of community resilience projects, to be honest, because without that stability, without that ability to ride economic storms, it will be very, very difficult, won't it? So again, congratulations to the government on the standby arrangement with the IMF. Got to keep pressing forward on that, stick with the programme, and continue to work with all partners towards macroeconomic stability. We talked a little bit about climate finance, the climate finance problem, it's a perennial problem. It's really good that there is a huge exhortation for all of us to be doing more in that space. But the critical bit for me is about private sector finance and how we crowd in more private sector finance to this problem. There isn't enough public finance. And so a lot of what we are thinking through in FCDO at the moment is how can we use our development capital to de-risk private sector investments in the climate space? How can we use our development capital for technical assistance that might support deal-making, pipelines of deals around adaptation projects, mitigation projects, climate resilient projects? And the private sector here, it's another structural issue, isn't it? The capital markets are not well developed. There is so much more to be done in that area. One third structural issue I will mention, and delighted to see Minister Iqbal, you've just arrived, because I heard you speak very passionately about this issue a couple of weeks ago, and that's the population challenge. With Pakistan, if there are 5 million new citizens added to the population here every year, and we know that most of those people are going to be living in very quite vulnerable communities, possibly on some of the floodplains that Julian talked about. Again, how can we collectively work on that issue together? It's a multi-sectoral problem. It's about family planning. It's about gender equality. It's about budget to buy commodities. It's about cultural issues, deep cultural, quite sensitive issues. But without a bend on the curve of population, again, climate change is just going to become more and more of a challenge here. I want to finish just by affirming the UK's commitment on climate change. We have a target of spending £11.6 billion by, I think it's financial year 25-26 on climate finance. That target is very much in view. It remains. And as we rethink our approach on development and climate change, I just want to signal that we will be writing a white paper over the next few months, a white paper that basically describes the UK government's policy towards development and climate change. And my Minister, Andrew Mitchell, has an ambition to make this a cross-party policy, so even though we will have elections in a year, his hope very much is the white paper will stand. And I really want to invite you all to contribute to that thinking. The consultation on our white paper opens now. We're open for evidence. We at the British High Commission are open to hear all your views. Just come and meet with us, come and meet with the team, but also submit your ideas directly, because it's going to take real innovation, isn't it, to solve the challenges of climate change here in Pakistan, but around the globe. And we want to hear from you on all those issues, and together, hopefully, we can make some progress. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.